From the sunny shores in Daytona Beach, Florida, it is the MRC Duels at Daytona to determine the starting order for the Daytona 250 MRC's first ever race in the Cup Series. Two dual races today, hence the name, 20 laps each and 2.5 miles every single lap they take around this track. So you're going to have two 50-mile races in store today. First race is going to determine who will be starting on the bottom row and in what order they'll be starting in, behind Zach Fitzwater, who ended up taking the pole in qualifying. He is locked into the race. Everyone else behind him is in pretty big jeopardy of not making this one. Second race is going to determine the outside row on the start of this one, and they will start behind Dylan Connolly, who has locked himself into the race as well, taking position 2 in qualifying. And without any further ado, we are just going to get right into this one. Zach Fitzwater starts on the pole for duel number 1, as he will do in the Daytona 250. He is the only driver out of this field of, I think, 23 cars that is 100% safe and will 100% make the Daytona 250. Everybody else in this field needs to finish ahead of the bottom 2. And pretty much nobody is safe, and the rest just determines the starting order. So Fitzwater is going to lead him to the green here. And we are going to kick off the first competitive side-by-side race here in MRC.
Green flag is out in Daytona. Fitzwater getting off to a good start, but Cole sticking right there with him on the outside. Vargas, a fellow Toyota, going to push him down here, but never mind. He's going to take 3 wide into turn 1.
Like I said, it is every person for themselves right now, and with the exception of Fitzwater, I mean, if Vargas were to get the win here, he'd be starting in 3rd on the grid, and that'd be very, very important to have a good starting spot for Daytona. But, you know, 20 laps, anything can happen. Super speedway racing, I mean, we're going to see a lot of spots shuffled around. Nobody is going to be in the same place they were a lap ago, pretty much every single lap around the track.
Yeah, Fitzwater already getting shuffled back after leading the field to the green. Not even going to make the first lap. That's going to go to a moto here in the 55.
First ever lap led. It isn't a points race, but hey, I mean, that's bragging rights for the rest of your career in the series, that you can say. 55 takes him to the stripe.
Spanish driver leading him into turn number 1. Figueroa right behind him. She's just pushing him down here through turn number 2 onto the back stretch, hoping to get a bigger run to pull away from the other guys. But it's so closely packed together here at Daytona. It's just like a can of sardines. They're just so tightly packed together. They can't get away from each other.
Yeah, and you got to be extra careful because, I mean, Daytona, just another series, you know, it can breed wrecks, and this is going to be the most important race for a lot of teams here. They need to make this race. It's going to get them a lot of points and keep them ahead of the top 30 in the owners' points, and you don't want to miss any future races. Otherwise, that could put your team and your title chances in jeopardy. So this is an incredibly important race. Both these dual races, you want to make sure you drive aggressively and make this race, but you also don't want to tear your car up and just not have a chance at all to make the race, as Ryan Jasper takes the lead on the back.
These races can literally be won in one singular corner. All of your choices are just one big long chess game. And you know, this entire race is just all about picking your line and picking who to work with and who's going to be the best guy to push you to the win, because you're not going to be able to do it all by yourself.
It is way easier to lose a race here than it is to win. I mean it's pretty obvious for most racing, but I mean, especially at Daytona, where just the smallest of mistakes, or maybe even something you weren't even a part of, could be the end of your day. You got to count on a lot of other people to make sure you bring your car home clean too.
And something I'd like to point out is that the guy who started last, the 82, is already up into the top 10, or their whereabouts in the top 10. That's just how easy it is to make up spots, and how easy it is to also lose spots when you look at the 11 on the top side. So neither one of the guys in the front row are even in the top 15 anymore, and that's just how Daytona works. It's one big shuffle game, and they're 3x3x3 throughout every single lane in the back right now, except the first one. Actually, never mind. Change the way that was just when I said that.
Yeah, like just like watching where the 11 is a very good indication of how Daytona works and how like every spot, like you're not in the same place you were even seconds before on the lap on the leaderboard. It's just so much changing, so much moving parts in these races, and you just gotta navigate it. Like you said earlier, it's a chess game. I mean, you gotta know the right moments to make those moves and when and where, and just the pace of the race, when to be aggressive, when to lay back, but you always gotta watch out for that unknown. You never know when someone's just gonna push the boundaries a little bit too far, rub up on somebody, maybe grab a little bit too much of a quarter panel.
72 was just getting too close to 31, right as you were talking about that. These guys get real close to each other's doors, trying to get some side draft off each other. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but when you're the lead car on the high side, it's kind of a lost cause. I don't know why some of these guys are pinching, but you gotta do what you gotta do at Daytona.
Another point I want to bring up, we mentioned Fitzwater moving back. Seth Cole qualified third, and now, as of lap 6, is in danger of missing the race entirely. So, I mean, just a lot going on. And also, to the point, I guess, if nobody caught earlier, the 11 is safe. So if he finishes in the bottom 2, whoever's ahead of him is going to be taken out instead. So, I mean, Fitzwater, he can pretty much just chill. He can start in the back if he wants to, or he could just hang back here. He's got the pole for the main race no matter what. As RJ Reynolds now takes a pretty commanding lead here.
Yeah, wow, he is really far ahead of everyone else. I wonder if that's just because they got too caught up in trying to side draft each other or what, but this cherry red number 7 of Corey Williams trying to come up through the field in the middle there. He's one of those guys that definitely needs to make it in the duel on time, or on speed.
Yeah, 100%. Didn't qualify too well. I think he was pretty much almost last. I mean, maybe like 3 or 4 spots ahead of that. I'd have to look at the table again. I don't have it up. But, I mean, he's moving his way forward. Like we said, the 82 is moving their way forward. A lot of these guys I'm seeing up here, they weren't qualifying towards the front.
Yeah, some of these guys are way more set up for race conditions than they are in qualifying, because they knew it's way more crucial to get in through this race rather than qualifying. Because if you don't get on the front row, or the pole position at least, you're not going to be able to do anything. And that's a 1 in 42 chance that you're going to, or 1 in 46 chance really, that you're going to get pole. So some of these guys really bank on the race conditions, how these duels go, because that can really make or break their entire weekend.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, this race is incredibly important, so having your car set up for this moment, as opposed to a single car run, while it is very important, I mean, it's going to help the 11 and the 95 out, as they've locked out the front row. But for everyone else, they got to race their way in, so, I mean, it is pretty smart to have that car hooked up for a race config. See what adjustments maybe have been made in between qualifying and now to get those cars set up the way they want.
Man, that Kev Shearer Racing Tech car is flying. They got that thing hooked up there. He's led the most consecutive laps of anyone out there, and to be able to pull a gap at Daytona, that is not easy to do. So for him to be able to pull any kind of gap and keep it that way by controlling the lanes and controlling where everyone is behind him, that's a guy to watch out for.
Yeah, and this is a guy that qualified 37th, so I mean, being able to keep that car out there and just kind of control the lanes, that's the skill you need. Sometimes it's not the speed, but it's the skill around here too. Those cars need to go fast, but if the driver behind the wheel isn't capable, then it could lead to catastrophe. And speaking of,
sorry about that, the 3 car literally almost just wrecked Dane Stinson and Michael Swiney right there. That could have been catastrophic right in front of the field.
yeah, that would have been a lot of junk. I mean, a lot of as long as you are ahead of at the bottom too, you'll be fine. But I mean, having a damaged race car certainly is going to help the pocket.
Yeah, they got it sorted out, but that was a real close one. They only got about 10 laps to go at the stripe in this duel, and they've kept it clean so far, but things can change in an instant here at Daytona.
And pretty much the only consistent thing of the last couple laps has been the 69 amp energy machine out in front. And, you know, just halfway through the race, literally that lap, we'll see if he's going to hold on to it for lap 20. I'm not too confident. It looks like the field's kind of reeling him back in, but with the way they're racing, I mean, this 69 could probably just swerve back and forth down the backstretch, blocking the lanes like crazy.
Yeah, this field has been heavily shuffling, and no one's really been able to lead a certain line. Everyone's just changing lines over. It's allowing allowing the 69 to stay ahead and do a really, really good job of managing those lanes and managing the draft, because no one can really pass him if he's blocking.
Yeah, it looks like Sweeney might have broke away a little bit. He might be able to reel this car back in if Aiden Smith doesn't get beside him. Yeah, it looks like now we got a bit of a straight line here to hook onto that 69 and humble him a little bit, bring him back to the rest of the field.
Yeah, that's just one of the flip side Toyotas out there. Michael Sweeney trailing the 69 of Reynolds. He's doing a pretty good job here. You can see how fast he's really going down the backstretch into turn number 3 here, because, oh my gosh, they are going a blistering like 200 miles an hour down the backstretch. And there goes Sweeney.
And unfortunately, one of our Cox camera crews just picked the absolute worst spot to put their cameras. We almost missed a pass for the lead there. It looks like Aiden Smith, he's gonna maybe give RJ a little bit of help.
He's pushing him, but he's not pushing him. He's trying to make a run for himself, but he decided, why not? Let me help RJ.
And Seth Cole looked like he was thinking about going from the third lane all the way to the bottom, but Fitzwater was there waiting. And yeah, it looks like the front row runners for this dual race have worked their way back up to the front here with 8 to go.
Yeah, Sweeney leading the inside line with Fitzwater, the pole sitter there, trying to carry him up the racetrack, but their bumper's just not aligning, and Sweeney's going to block down low and make sure Fitzwater gets shuffled back. But Aiden Smith going for the lead down there in the Popeyes Ford. Might be the first pass we get on RJ Reynolds of the day, but Reynolds stays ahead. He's got a rocket ship out there.
That thing is fast. He is looking to start right behind Fitzwater on the front, or on the bottom line for Daytona. If he can hang on to that spot right here. This race, not sure if I mentioned it at the top, but it will determine the bottom line for the 250. Duel 2 determines the top side for the starting lineup for the 250. But man, that 69, it's so fast. Seth Cole trying to get something going with that top line, but I'm really not sure if anything is going to happen.
They have nailed the setup for that 69 in terms of how fast it can be in clear air. He can literally just sit out there and control every single line and not have any threat to him. Anytime a car gets side by side with him, they just fail out and fall right to the back. So yeah, that 69 is set up really, really well.
Very nice looking amp energy race machine. We probably said that in qualifying, so we said it about like every single car, but I mean, this thing would
look very nice.
This would look beautiful as a race win diecast, as I always say. But we're gonna see if anyone else is gonna try to get their race win diecast instead.
Sweeney's been close to clearing every single lane a couple of times. He already successfully did it before, but after that, he's kind of failed every other attempt he's had to clear the other lanes below him. And, you know, it's just a factor of everyone else has probably got the same kind of setup, while RJ's got a completely different philosophy. And that's the way he's able to hold it out there. And these guys are just at a stalemate, because I don't think I've seen a real pass for any sort of position in a few laps.
There's been a bit of moving and shuffling, but it seems like it's only for second place. I mean, there's not really a whole lot of like coherent, just like let's get a line moving and get the 69 out of the way. Everyone also could just be playing it a bit safe, I suppose. I mean, like we said, you don't want to wreck, but I mean, these guys at the back, we're coming up on 4 to go. I mean, you know, the no limits cars right here could both be out of the race of Mendes and Humo here. Now the 3 is, I'm getting the hell away. I don't want to be behind you anymore. We could both miss the race if we end up like this, so he's going to go to the bottom now.
Yeah, Fitzwater, the only guy in this that can't miss the race, and he's all the way at the back, so he's definitely playing it safe, trying not to get in a wreck. But here comes Vargas down the inside.
We might have something cooking here. It's that Burger King machine. He's got that flame-grilled car flying through the field. He's going to wash it down to some Mountain Dew or some Amp Energy maybe.
Classic 2009 lunch up here in the top 3. The 00 Burger King Toyota going for the lead, with Will Hoyt pushing him right behind him in the 72.
Yeah, the Misfits Motors. I was going to say the Misfit Motorsports boys kind of haven't really been doing too much, but this 72 now making a charge for the lead here, looking to show the other Chevys have a bit of muscle. 3 to go now. As Vargas, it's the first lap that hasn't been led by Reynolds in a very long time. Now that 00 is going to try to employ the same strategy, I think, but I think it might be a bit too late in the race now. Everyone is charging. Natan coming back up to the point.
It's like a pack of bulls coming for a flag, man. These guys are just charging up for the lead. And Natanamoto, the last time we saw him lead a lap was, I think, lap 1. And now he's all the way back up here with almost 2 laps to go, going for the win.
I think you're right. He led the very first lap of the race, and he is definitely looking to lead the very last one. 2 Toyota Camrys at the top of the field, but it looks like the 31 might have bumped the 55 out of the way. We have a hell of a race for the win here, coming with 2 to go.
3x3x3, Roberto Crown Jr. taking matters into his own.
Oh, 4 wide perhaps.
Wow, Williams taking a page out of Crown's book and trying to get him out of the way. This is a spicy battle for the win right here.
3x3, the entire length of the field down there. As we got a heck of a race coming into 3 and 4 here. Who is going to end up taking it? That 7 is worrying me so much, though. I think
needs to tell these guys this is just a duel race.
This is literally half the field that's going to be running at the main race on Sunday. So, I mean, holy crap when it gets to that. I don't even know who led that last lap. We're going to turn that off, actually. I kind of just want to see with my own eyes what happens here.
Williams is trying so hard to make a move down the inside, but it's not working. Crown's defending flawlessly. Where's Crown going to go? Is he going to stay on the inside?
He is letting that thing rip around the bottom side of the racetrack, and he's got to be committed. But look at that 7. He is really trying to make a lane down there.
Vargas inching ahead off the high side, though, with the momentum from the 69 car, the fastest car in clear air. But let's see who's going to get it off turn 4. 3x3x3 off of turn number 4.
And not only is this a race for the win, but this is a race who determines who makes it to Daytona. The 00, is he going to end up taking it at the line? I'm not sure, but we have 2 drivers who are going home. And one of them I am incredibly sad about, and it is Christian Vargas, who ends up taking the first race ever in MRC, the first dual race to determine the starting lineup for Daytona. He's going to be starting 3rd in the race. But as we scroll down the list, going home is Tristan Allen and Seth Cole. Fitzwater putting it in last. I mean, he didn't have to do too much, as he's going to be starting first regardless. But one of the misfit boys going home, and Dick Hare is going to have to load up one of their cars and take it onto the hauler back to Mooresville or wherever the hell they came from. But Christian Vargas takes the first ever win in MRC history. May not be a points race, but it's a very important one nonetheless.
Definitely holds majority of bragging rights for speed weeks after that. This is probably a higher honor than pole, per se, because you won an actual race. So Vargas taking the checkered flag in a 3x3 photo finish just gives us something to look out for the Sunday race. And, you know, all of these guys put on a great show, but the 00 is the one that stood out, and he crossed the line first, and that's all that matters.
He definitely had it his way here today with the Burger King car. I want to give a shout out to the 55 and the 69, though. I mean, hell of a drive from both those guys, especially RJ, to pretty much hold the lead for a good half of the race there. But, I mean, it just wasn't enough. Once the pack kind of catch up and gets pretty aggressive, it's very hard to hold the lead. But the story of the day is the 00 taking the win here in the duel. He's going to be starting 3rd behind Fitzwater. And unfortunately for Tristan Allen and Seth Cole, very impressive showing qualifying from Seth Cole. And Tristan, I don't remember doing too bad, but I mean, they got to go home. And we only got room for 42, and Vargas says, you know what, I'm going to take one more lap around. I'm going to enjoy this.
Just soaking in the victory from every single lap that he had to stay up front and worry about getting turned around. It all paid off, and he came home with a checkered flag, but this place can pay off big, and it can take away from you just as much. So bummer to the 27 and the 52 guys. They were both fast enough by themselves to make it in the show, but that's just how it goes here at Daytona. Sometimes you just have it go your way, sometimes you don't.
And once again, congrats to Christian Vargas, and that race determines the bottom line starting at the Daytona 250, so I think we should now determine who's going to be starting up top behind Dylan Connolly in that race, and who survives that one. See if they can keep their cars clean for that one, because I mean, this first race, Wasn't too sure they're going to survive, but they kept it together. On to duel number 2. Alright, we've brought the second set of drivers in for the duel race. Again, this determines the top side, starting in the Daytona 250. Dylan Connolly on the pole for this one. Just like Fitzwater, he's the only driver locked in from the field. Kyler Sestroy on his outside. And we're going to see what happens in this one. The last race was crazy. Will this one be even crazier? I'm not sure if they'll bring it home if it is, but either way, the green is out and we are off and running.
Connolly got a way better jump than the pole sitter did in the last race. He's going to try to clear the outside line already and lead it down into turn 1 by himself.
And that Vagisil machine looking to command the race. He's going to give Shane Sides a very good view of sponsorship here as they lead the field down the backstretch.
That's a great advertisement for women's health. I love the message. And hopefully the message is just as fast as... Never mind. Either way, we're going to have Connolly leading the race into turn number 3. And he's going to block the inside. Shane Sides going to try something here, and he's going to do it.
And will Shane Sides be the lucky leader of the very first lap in this duel race here today? We'll see. Connolly still holding pretty strong on the outside. They might go 4 wide. It's lap 1, guys. But Connolly's going to take it.
Transformers and Hooters all right next to each other. That's an interesting combination for a Saturday night.
Sounds like my childhood.
Going to the lead.
That Hooters machine taken to the point there, and it looks like Emmy Squizzato is, or Emmy Squizzato, I believe is how you say it. We've mispronounced a lot of things. Going to try to take that spot away from the 16, but Buffalo, I mean, he went top to bottom. He blocked the hell out of that 8. So now Cam Vanderhorst is going to try to lead the charge on the bottom. And unfortunately, one of his teammates not making Daytona, as he's found out. So he's going to do his best to make sure he is not one of the other cars going home.
Yeah, there's no exceptions to who goes home except for those that started on pole in the duels. So unless you're in the 95 or the 11, you're not so special out there after all. So you got to go out there and work for it, and that's what the 27 and the 52 learned. So
yeah, it was a very good example of Seth Cole. I mean, qualified 3rd, you're gone, buddy. You are not making Daytona, unfortunately. This is how it goes. So you got to keep that car clean, keep it away from the bottom of the pack.
And if you think back to qualifying, right, the 52, he sat on top for a majority of that session. That was everyone's benchmark for a long time until the 95 and the 11 came along. And, you know, when you have a car like that by itself, and it's not good in the draft, and you can't make passes, and you're kind of stuck, that's what's going to end up happening. You're going to have a fast race car, but nothing to show for it.
He was the 5th car to qualify, and he held first place until the 27th car on track Connolly came by. And now Cole is gone because of Connolly and Fitzwater just being a little bit faster than he was. That's just how it goes. These races are crazy.
54's going down the inside of the 16. They were working together to pull away from everyone for a long time, but now they just let everyone bunch right back up. Ash Curtis taking it 3 wide down the inside in turn number 4.
Speaking of the 54, I believe we have all of Warren Racing in this field too. And Blake is there at the very bottom, and so is Barksdale. It didn't qualify too well. So, I mean, we could have 2 cars from that team go away. You could have 1 car from, you know, 2 different teams go away. It just, a lot of things can happen. This race, like I said before, the most important one of the season, I think. These preseason races, it's kind of crazy to think about, but just how it is.
Could be a few broken hearts out of Ohio over there, because Warren Racing and Misfit Motorsports, the 2 teams out of Ohio, and we don't want either one of those teams to miss it, but we've already have 1 car from one of those teams in this race, so don't want to see any of that happen, because those guys are very well liked in the garage, but anything can happen to anyone no matter who they are, so that's the best thing about these duels.
Yeah, whether you have a Mountain Dew sponsorship or Trojan condoms, I mean, from high to low, or from low to high, depending on, you know, what you do with your personal life.
Cars to fully wrapped cars, you know, it can just vary from anything.
And
anybody and anyone can miss this race.
And speaking of cars that missed the race, that Dick Hare car of Seth Cole, well, now we got Jacques DeCock in this one, and he is going to try not to miss it as well. Test Tickle, I think, where did Test Tickle qualify? They were pretty far down. Yeah, they were second to last when they qualified, and they ended up making Daytona, so, I mean, that's how it goes.
Yeah, luck of the draw. You just gotta get in the right position and honestly kind of work for it as well as be lucky in this kind of race. So, you know, you have to have a bunch of factors go your way for something like this to go well, but that's just plate racing. That's what it is.
Yeah, super speedway racing, we've said it many times in the last race, just insane. It's very unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen. And speaking of, I mean, the two cars are on the front row of this race, at the very back, and maybe Connolly taking a note from Fitzwater. I can just kind of chill back here, finishing 23rd. I'll still make the race. I'll still start in the front row.
Yeah, the typical approach is someone who kind of knows what they got, right? I mean, you know, you want to preserve your race car and you want to preserve what's quick, and you want to keep the product that puts you on the front row for Sunday, right? So that's kind of the main goal of the 11 and the 95, just keep all the fenders on the car and avoid a wreck if it happens.
Yeah, just keep that thing clean, and I think the 35 might have taken some notes from RJ Reynolds also. Field is 3x3 behind him, and they're just going to try to hang on for this one, but they got to be a bit more aggressive than that 69 was last race if they want to end up taking 4th place on the grid for the main race.
Yeah, shades of the last duel, the 77 having a Chevrolet nose and under him, and the exact situation is Reynolds leading and Corey Williams going for second. So, yeah, a little bit of deja vu going on right now, but 35 leading the field and doing a good job at it, just like the 69 did in the last duel. So,
yeah, you can already see a lot of just information being gathered from that last race. It really does help to go on second. In an event like this, you can learn a whole lot. As the cars kind of starting near the back are moving their way up towards the front halfway through this one, and Eric Rodriguez, he's got to be aggressive. I mean, that was one of the cars that didn't start very well. I mean, he was like a whole 3/10 off the pole time. So if that's indicative of his race speed, which it doesn't look like it is, at least in the field of 23, he's got to get up there and he's got to make some moves.
yeah, I think all the Team SB cars are set up more for the race conditions, because his teammate Luis Hernandez, he's up there in the middle. He was the first car in the middle line for a while, and now he's the 3rd car on the highway. But, you know, these SB cars, even Williams in the last duel, they were very quick in the race conditions, and the 7 made it on through. So I have high confidence in these Fords, and they were really fast in qualifying for a reason. I think they got a great package under them. We just got to see what they can do in about 10 laps time.
Yeah, it might have been a Toyota and a Chevy on the front row, but those Fords were very consistently fast in qualifying, aside from a handful of the Dick Hare cars, with the exception of Seth Cole, who was gone from Daytona, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah.
Exception of a handful of Dick, you know, those guys just cannot get their stuff together on the plate tracks in terms of, you know, race pace, but they can do it well in qualifying pace for sure.
And Blake Warren, who was last like maybe 2 laps ago, if even that, now leading the point here at Daytona, looking to bring that Warren racing machine and that team to glory. Oh, what is Dan Rivera doing?
Ooh, close.
He
Had a
was,
couple of heart attacks, but no actual real wrecks here, to say the least.
yeah, they've kept it together over halfway through this one, and I honestly wasn't so sure with how the last race was going. And ooh, Eric Rodriguez, he was getting a little too close to the wall for my comfort there.
If they get 4 wide, it's over. That's all I'm going to say. If they get 4 wide, there's going to be a wreck at some point in the race.
Yeah, especially in the 250. I don't see them getting that aggressive. Well, as I say that, Connolly, they're 4 wide now, just about.
They're all trying to make some sort of move. Everyone, like I said earlier in the first duel, it's like a can of sardines. These guys just want to jump out at each other. And every time they make a move, it's just more danger and more risk for a wreck to happen.
I was saying they probably wouldn't be as aggressive, but I mean, here comes Dylan Connolly, the only car safe from any sort of danger, trying to move that 12 out of the way, and it looks like he's going to maybe get that move done. But I think they're... Ooh, Jesus.
Oh wow, Sustry is really trying his luck here.
It's hard to commentate. I can only really react to things that are almost going to happen. It's, every time I go to say something, someone does something just crazy.
The 95 is already back out up there though.
And he's got a teammate right behind him in that 43. Well, he did for a millisecond. Joey Murphy there in the Alpha Connolly machine.
Yeah, Joey Murphy doing a good job leading the middle up there with his buddy DJ Curtis. Just trying to make way here in the MRC duel and seeing just how fast he really is. He's, everyone actually is pretty new to this whole entire package, so everyone's learning just as much as the next guy here.
Yeah, this race is going to be a big learning experience for how it's going to go, like in the main 250 also. Just seeing how these cars race together and seeing how they perform in the air and what moves you can make and how aggressive you could be. Shane sides is being incredibly aggressive with that 24 of Cam Vanderhorst.
Yeah, he's testing the limit for sure, just seeing how close he can actually get. I've seen a couple of guys really try to see if they can move someone out of the way. Murphy down the inside in the middle.
It looks like the Cam Wassard might try the same exact thing on Shane's sides. I'm not so sure if that's smart coming out of 4. But nonetheless, I mean, all these guys are aggressive. Like, this has been a bit different than the last duel race because I feel like every single lap somebody is saying, I'm going to take the lead from you. It's going to happen. And you're going to let it happen.
Great run. Almost cleared all the lanes up there just because of the push he got from Vanderhorst.
Our camera crew just really loves that pace car as the 06 goes to take the lead from Murphy. It's a good view of how fast everyone's going in the backstretch here. See the moving and the shaking of the lines.
Wow, the 24 is really pushing the 43 down every straightaway. They're doing such a good job keeping it locked together and working together up there. I would say Murphy's probably going to watch out for if he can stay where he is.
A good point is in testing, you know, you got teammates running this track together. Those Chevys know how those bumpers work with each other, which is crucially important. If you're going to be making bumps like that, you got to know how these cars perform. And I think Cam probably took super speedway testing to heart. And he's like, I am going to just push the hell out of whoever's in front of me. And if I got a Chevy and they got a Chevy, I know I can do it.
Ooh, and Pebbles and Jones going side by side down the backstretch. Bobby Jones, the open wheel aficionado here, just trying his hand at stock car racing, and he's going to nose his way into the lead here at these fast, exhilarating plate tracks. They're probably similar to what he runs in a open wheel IndyCar type style vehicle, especially at Indianapolis. So probably helps that he has some experience doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's still like an entirely different element because you got the bumpers and, you know, completely covered and whatnot. But I mean, usually when you hear about open wheel drivers coming to super speedways, they're just completely scared and they don't want to do too much. But Bobby Jones up here in third currently, he is looking to make some moves here for Beacon Penske Racing. He might, or no, Sustra is also in this race. I was going to say he might have been the only car from that team in here, but
yeah, taking it like a duck to water over here in plate racing. Bobby Jones doing a great job. Found Shane sides very quickly. And one thing that we definitely learned from preseason testing is if that you're going to find a bump drafting partner, you might as well find someone of the same manufacturer, because some of these bumpers do not line up with each other. And that is how a lot of accidents were caused in testing, was a lot of guys of opposite manufacturers trying to get together and trying to do a push, and it just wouldn't work out because they would just grind up against each other. So yeah, like you're seeing the 71 and 99 doing, just find a guy that has the same exact manufacturer as you and just go with them.
and you know, that appeases the sponsors and the factories back home too. I mean, they love to see the synergy working together, and it also helps to have the chemistry between the teammates. Like I said, Cam Vanderhorst pushing that Chevy. You know, you never know, maybe some word in the garage is going back around. I mean, you see that a lot around Super Speedway Week. A lot of spotters are talking to each other. A famous, you know, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart, I mean, they'd always just be talking to each other no matter what team they were on. They're saying, hey, we're going to work together. We'll see if any of that develops in here.
Spotters talking to each other. I think the 54 and 71 spotters were definitely right next to each other there, because they just pulled away from the field. And it's only 2 laps to go, guys. This is getting bunched up but spread out real quick. exactly.
Oh, look
There
at
goes
Luis Hernandez. Oh, look at the speed he's got.
What a run down the backstretch into turn number 3. Hernandez.
And he's
with
got
the
his
huge pass.
teammate Eric Rodriguez might be coming up behind him. He might give Luis this win here. Coming to the final lap. Who's going to make Daytona?
Oh my gosh, we mentioned this earlier and we might have manifested it. Those SB guys are fast, man. And there goes Eric Rodriguez. He might try to take this into his own hands, but Richard Johnson down the inside. He's got a huge run with Blake Warren.
And where did he come from? Him and Blake Warren. Buddy Barksdale as well. I mean, some of the guys that we might have counted out are up here in the front. And
Trying to go 4 wide.
and there's
Blake Warren's trying.
and there's another Misfit Motorsports car in danger of being eliminated back there. There's a lot going on. Oh, and they're banging on each other.
Hitting each other, side drafting. Everyone's desperate to make a move to win this duel.
Richard Johnson, he's got a hell of a
out
run.
front.
Blake Warren to the bottom. Is he going to get it?
Blake Warren's peeking his nose down to the bottom. Blake Warren's going to have a run down to the start finish.
Blake
line.
Warren,
Who's
Richard
gonna win it?
Johnson. Richard Johnson takes it.
Wow, what a finish. 2 great finishes to start off Speed Weeks. What a duel. What a 2 duel.
2 completely clean races too, and I thought they were going to die multiple times. And now it's time to slowly scroll down the leaderboard and see who's packing up their equipment and taking it home. I think the 95 finished well ahead of last, so Richard Johnson takes the win, and going home is Bobby Jones and Cam Lassard. Bobby Jones, who was literally up there. We talked him up with like 2 to go.
We just saw him up there and he's out. We just saw him. Joey Murphy was so close to missing it. Look at that margin of Bobby Jones and Joey Murphy right there. That was very close between those 2.
Yeah, very unfortunate. That's a Beacon Penske car going home, and that's a Roush Fenway Kiani car also going home. 2 Fords going home in this rate. Well, that's 3 Fords on the weekend going home. That's not very good. And 1 Chevy from Misfit going home. Very unfortunate. Those 2 cars looked like they had it together, but I mean, it's all about what you got on that final lap. And on the final lap, Richard Johnson had the car to win, and it looks like he might give Blake Warren a little bit of a push. I think they were working together at the end there. I think he's giving him a little bit of thanks here. And yeah, also the SB guys coming back around, the Warren Racing of Buddy Barksdale, and a lot of the Warren Racing guys are staying out on this lap to cool down and celebrate a bit here. But the story goes to Richard Johnson. He's going to be starting 4th place in the Daytona 250, and he's secured his spot in the main race as well as 21 other drivers in this field. Big props in that 93 machine.
A lot of those guys taking a victory lap were guys that were kind of in danger, so it kind of makes sense that they're just taking a lap to soak it all in. And yeah, everyone just having a very intense final lap and hanging out together like buddies on the racetrack, going 200 miles an hour after the race. So really interesting to see the camaraderie of the guys out there, and man, what a finish between everybody. Everyone just played very fair and aggressive today, and that was an amazing show for the fans and us.
Yeah, those were 2 of the best just 20 lap sprints I've ever seen at Daytona personally, and that makes me incredibly excited for the main 250-mile race coming up that we have here soon. And we are going to have the full starting lineup and everything after that coming up here shortly. But once again, congrats to Richard Johnson, and unfortunately for the 39 of Bobby Jones and 06 of Cameron Lassard, they're going to be packing up their equipment and back to the drawing board. And after 2 very exciting dual races here at Daytona, we have the official starting lineup for the 250. Of course, front row was already locked out by Fitzwater and Connolly. Christian Vargas, Duel 1 race winner, and Richard Johnson, Duel 2 race winner, going to be starting on the 2nd row. And it just pretty much goes as follows for the dual results, just all the way down the field. Tristan Woolhoit, one of the surviving Misfit Motorsports cars. Unfortunately, Tristan Allen going home, so we are not going to see Baja Blast, unfortunately. That's probably my biggest disappointment. And the rest of the field, of course, pretty much just how they finished. Testicle, of course, losing Seth Cole. So they're going to have one less drafting partner in this one. Of course, Bobby Jones also going home, representing Kyler Sestrai, Beacon Penske Racing. Kyler Sestrai, one of their teammates, going to be just 1 car short in that field. As well as Roush Fenway Kiani with Cam Lassard. So Matt Mitchell and Kiani himself just not going to have that 1 extra driver there. And rounding out the field, Carlos Mendez and Joey Murphy just barely surviving, just barely hanging on. Every car came through clean, but just some didn't survive there at the end. And of course, the next time you're going to see the MRC Cup Series, it's going to be the Daytona 250, the biggest race of the season. And if you'd like to get on the action, join our Discord. Of course, the link is right there. Hope you can read that. Should be able to. Thanks again for watching, everybody. And yeah, we'll see you again in the Daytona 250.